There are departures that echo louder than promises. You have wondered why certain footsteps faded into silence, why someone who once spoke your name with certainty chose a road that no longer included yours. You searched for answers in sleepless nights, replayed forgotten conversations, and questioned whether love had simply overlooked your heart. Yet there is something you could not see then, something hidden beyond the limits of your own understanding. Not every goodbye is a punishment. Sometimes it is protection disguised as heartbreak. The soul often mistakes an unfinished chapter for the end of the entire story. But what feels like loss today may become the very evidence that you were being guided away from what could never truly hold you. Listen closely. The one who walked away believed they were leaving behind something ordinary. They measured your worth through temporary emotions. Through moments clouded by distraction, pride, uncertainty, or fear. They thought another path would bring greater fulfillment. They never realized they were stepping away from a blessing they had not fully recognized. And while they continued walking, you remained standing in the place where questions seemed louder than answers. You wondered whether you had loved too deeply. Whether you had been too patient. Whether your kindness had become invisible. Those questions have weighed heavily upon your heart, but they were never meant to become your identity. Because your value has never depended on someone's ability to recognize it. Think about the sunrise. It does not lose its brilliance simply because someone chooses to close their curtains. Its light remains unchanged. So does yours. There are seasons when silence appears empty, yet beneath that silence, unseen things are quietly taking shape. Growth rarely announces itself with noise. It happens beneath the surface, where roots become strong enough to support blessings too heavy for fragile foundations. That is where you have been. Growing. Strengthening. Becoming someone your past version could scarcely recognize. You may not have celebrated those quiet victories. You may not even have noticed them. But every tear that taught compassion. Every disappointment that deepened your wisdom. Every lonely evening that forced you to rediscover your own voice. None of it was wasted. Even now, pieces are moving that you cannot yet arrange into a complete picture. And somewhere beyond your view, another heart has begun asking questions it never expected to ask. The absence they once dismissed has become impossible to ignore. What they assumed they could replace. What they believed would always remain available. Has become the very thing they cannot stop remembering. Strange, isn't it? Distance has a way of revealing what comfort often conceals. Only when the noise faded did they begin to hear the quiet truth they once ignored. Not because your worth suddenly increased, but because their vision finally became clear. Still, do not misunderstand what this moment means. This is not about revenge. It is not about watching someone suffer so your pain feels justified. No. The deepest victory is never found in another person's regret. It is discovered when your heart no longer requires their approval to believe what has always been true. There is a freedom that arrives quietly. It doesn't shout. It doesn't demand attention. It simply replaces the weight you carried with a peace you never thought possible. You are closer to that freedom than you realize. Yet something unexpected is beginning to unfold. The story you believed belonged only to your heartbreak has become part of someone else's awakening. And that awakening, it has already begun. The signs are subtle. Small moments interrupt their ordinary days. A familiar memory appears without invitation. A forgotten laugh echoes inside their thoughts. Your absence speaks where your presence once could not. But here is the question that changes everything. If someone finally recognizes the treasure they once abandoned, what happens when they return and discover that the person they left behind is no longer standing where they expected? Because while they were learning what they had lost, you were becoming someone entirely new. And the next step in this journey will reveal why that changes everything. There is a moment that arrives without fanfare, a moment so quiet that many people overlook it completely. It is the instant when healing no longer feels like an effort. One day, you stop counting how many days have passed. You stop wondering who is watching your life from a distance. You stop waiting for explanations that were never yours to carry. And without realizing it, you begin breathing differently. That is when everything changes. Because while your heart has been learning to release what it could never control, another heart has been learning the weight of what it once took for granted. Life has a remarkable way of becoming the teacher pride refused to acknowledge. The conversations they once believed were ordinary now return to them with unexpected clarity. The encouragement they overlooked. The loyalty they underestimated. The peace they quietly depended upon without ever admitting it. Those memories no longer pass through their mind like passing clouds. They linger. They ask difficult questions. They awaken truths that can no longer be ignored. Have you ever noticed how people often recognize the value of water only after wandering through a desert? Not because the water changed, but because thirst removed every illusion. In much the same way, the distractions that once captured their attention have slowly begun to lose their shine. What seemed exciting for a season now feels strangely empty. What once promised fulfillment now echoes with silence. And in that silence, your memory appears. Not as a shadow of the past, but as a reminder of something genuine. Something rare. Something they failed to protect. Yet I ask you something far more important than whether they remember you. Who have you become while they were remembering? That question carries greater power than you realize. Because transformation is never measured by who returns. It is measured by who you become when no one is applauding your progress. You have walked through valleys that few people ever understood. There were mornings when simply choosing hope required extraordinary courage. There were nights when the future seemed hidden behind thick clouds, and still, you kept moving. Even when your strength felt small. Even when your prayers felt unanswered. Even when no one noticed the quiet battles taking place within you. Those unseen victories became part of your foundation. The world celebrates visible success. Heaven celebrates faithful perseverance. Every moment you chose kindness instead of bitterness. Every time you refused to let disappointment harden your spirit. Every occasion when compassion remained stronger than resentment. You were building something eternal inside yourself. That work could never be taken away. This is why your future cannot be measured by your past disappointments. The person who walked away believed they understood your story because they had read one chapter. But they never stayed long enough to witness what came next. They never imagined the confidence that would quietly replace your insecurity. They never expected your peace to become stronger than your pain. They certainly never imagined that your greatest season would begin after they had already closed the book. Still, do not allow curiosity to become your compass. It is easy to wonder whether they will reach out. Whether they will apologize. Whether they will search for another chance. Those questions may appear important. But they are not the center of this story. The center has always been you discovering the value that was present before anyone chose to leave. Because when identity rests upon unchanging truth, approval loses its power. Rejection loses its sting. Delay loses its fear. And suddenly, doors that once seemed permanently closed no longer feel like prisons. They become proof that another path was quietly waiting all along. There is a reason your heart has felt different recently. Perhaps you have sensed it without finding the words. A new strength has been rising within you. Not loud. Not dramatic. But steady. Like dawn patiently replacing the longest night. Something beautiful happens when peace begins to outweigh longing. You stop chasing what is running away. You become prepared for what is running toward you. That preparation matters more than you know. Because the next season will not ask whether you are lovable. It will ask whether you recognize your own worth enough to receive what truly belongs in your life. And just beyond the horizon, a decision is forming. One that neither you nor the one who walked away fully expected. When those two paths begin moving toward the same crossroads once again, the choice waiting there will reveal that this story was never about losing love. It was always about discovering the kind of love that refuses to be diminished, even after walking through the fire. And what happens at that crossroads will test far more than either heart is prepared to imagine. Not every reunion begins with a conversation. Some begin with a silence so profound that it speaks louder than 1,000 carefully chosen words. Picture the moment. The distance that once felt impossible has quietly shortened. The years of unanswered questions, the restless wondering, the hidden tears, all seem to gather into a single heartbeat. Yet something is unmistakably different. You are not standing there as the person who was left behind. That version of you no longer exists. Shedding that old identity was never easy. There were days when letting go felt like losing a piece of yourself. But every surrender made room for something stronger, something wiser, something that could never have been formed inside comfort alone. Growth often arrives wearing the disguise of loneliness. It whispers before it roars. It reshapes your spirit before it reshapes your circumstances. And now, you carry a quiet confidence that cannot be borrowed from another person's affection. You know who you are, even when no one is speaking your name. That is the kind of strength the world rarely notices, yet it changes everything. Meanwhile, the one who walked away has been carrying a different journey. Regret has a peculiar way of slowing the pace of a restless heart. It causes people to revisit crossroads they thought they had left forever. It invites questions they spent years trying to avoid. What if I misunderstood? What if I was too quick to leave? What if the very peace I was searching for was already beside me? Questions like these do not appear overnight. They grow quietly, one ordinary day at a time. A familiar song. An unexpected memory. A place once shared. A lesson learned too late. Little by little, certainty gives way to reflection. Reflection gives way to humility. And humility opens doors that pride kept firmly closed. But hear this carefully. Someone else's awakening should never become the foundation of your future. There was a time when you might have believed that their realization would finally heal your heart. That if they returned with the perfect apology, if they found exactly the right words, every wound would disappear. Yet healing does not arrive through another person's speech. It blossoms when your heart finally believes the truth it has been whispering all along. You were never abandoned by your purpose. You were never forgotten by your destiny. You were never overlooked by the one who has been guiding every unseen step. Even when the road curved into places you did not understand, there was intention. Even when the waiting stretched longer than you imagined, there was preparation. Even when every closed door seemed to echo disappointment, there was protection hidden within the delay. Look back for just a moment. Can you see how many moments that once felt unbearable have now become evidence of your resilience? The tears did not defeat you. The silence did not erase you. The disappointment did not define you. Instead, each one became another stone beneath your feet, lifting you higher than the place where your story first seemed to break apart. That is why your future carries a different weight now. You no longer seek love to complete you. You seek truth that can walk beside you. You no longer confuse attention with devotion. You recognize the difference between someone who admires your light, and someone who chooses to help protect it. That wisdom was expensive. But it was worth every lesson. Now another question begins to rise. What if the greatest gift was never the possibility of someone returning? What if the greatest gift was becoming the kind of person who no longer fears whether they do? Sit with that thought. Because freedom often arrives in unexpected clothing. It is the moment your joy is no longer held hostage by someone else's decision. It is the moment hope no longer depends upon yesterday repeating itself. It is the moment peace quietly says, whatever comes next, I am ready. That readiness changes the atmosphere around you. People notice it without understanding why. Opportunities begin appearing where obstacles once stood. Conversations carry new depth. Your eyes see possibilities that pain once concealed. It is as though the horizon itself has widened. Yet there is one final truth that has not fully revealed itself. The path ahead holds an encounter unlike anything you have imagined. It will not simply ask whether forgiveness is possible. It will ask whether wisdom has truly taken root. Because love that has been refined by truth no longer reaches for what is familiar. It reaches for what is faithful. And when the next door begins to open, you will discover that the greatest surprise was never who finally recognized your worth. It was who you had quietly become before they ever had the chance. There comes a season when the questions finally grow quiet. Not because every mystery has been answered. Not because every wound has vanished without a trace. But because your heart has discovered something greater than certainty. It has discovered trust. Trust does not erase the memories. It transforms the way you carry them. The chapters that once brought tears now become reminders of how far you have come. The names that once stirred longing no longer possess the same power. The moments that once kept you awake at night become evidence that even your hardest seasons were never empty. There was purpose in every delay. There was wisdom in every unanswered prayer. There was grace in every closed door you could not understand at the time. And now, you stand at the edge of a beginning that once seemed impossible. Notice how different your heart feels. You are no longer chasing echoes. You are listening for truth. You are no longer asking, why wasn't I enough? You are asking, what kind of life am I now prepared to receive? That single question changes everything. Because the moment your perspective changes, your future begins changing with it. There are people who spend years trying to recover what they lost. But you have been learning something far more valuable. You have been becoming someone who cannot be diminished by loss. Think about a tree after winter. To an untrained eye, it appears lifeless. Its branches are bare. Its beauty seems hidden. Yet beneath the surface, life has never stopped working. The roots continue reaching deeper. Strength continues growing where no one can see. Then one morning, without asking permission from the season that tried to silence it, new life appears. Not because winter was gentle, but because life proved stronger than the cold. So it has been with you. The difficult season did not have the final word. The lonely nights did not write the ending. The departure that once shattered your expectations did not determine your destiny. It only became the backdrop against which your resilience was revealed. And perhaps now, the one who walked away finally understands. Perhaps they see the beauty they once overlooked. Perhaps they recognize the peace they once mistook for ordinary. Perhaps they carry sincere regret. If so, meet that reality with wisdom rather than bitterness. Compassion rather than pride. Clarity rather than impulse. For every heart deserves honesty. Every conversation deserves truth. But not every reopened door is meant to become a lifelong home. Discernment is one of the quietest forms of love. It honors both grace and wisdom. It forgives without forgetting the lessons. It remains kind without abandoning healthy boundaries. It welcomes growth without pretending the past never happened. This is the maturity your journey has been shaping within you. Not hardness. Not suspicion. Not fear. But a heart that can love deeply while standing firmly in truth. That kind of heart becomes a refuge. It carries peace into every room. It refuses to be ruled by insecurity. It understands that genuine love is never sustained by desperation. It flourishes where there is mutual honor, patience, humility, and trust. So lift your eyes. The story was never about proving your worth to someone who could not yet recognize it. The story was about discovering that your worth was never missing. It was waiting for you to believe it. Now you can walk forward without resentment weighing down your steps. Without fear clouding your vision. Without needing yesterday to change before tomorrow can begin. Carry gratitude for every lesson. Carry compassion for every person, including those who misunderstood you. Carry hope that is anchored in something deeper than changing circumstances. And above all, carry the quiet confidence that what is truly meant for your life will never require you to abandon your integrity to receive it. The love that walked away may indeed have learned what it lost. But the greater miracle is this. You learned what could never be taken from you. That truth will guide your choices. It will steady your heart. It will shape every relationship that follows. And long after this chapter has become a distant memory, you will look back, not with regret, but with gratitude. Because what once felt like an ending became the very place where hope found its strongest voice. Walk forward with peace. The best pages of your story have never belonged to the past. They have always been waiting, just beyond the next faithful step. There is one final truth that must be spoken. Not because you have never heard it before, but because your heart is finally ready to receive it. For so long, you believed your greatest battle was holding on. Holding on to memories. Holding on to promises. Holding on to the hope that one more chance might restore what had been broken. Yet the greatest victory was never found in your ability to hold on. It was found in your willingness to let peace take the place of control. That is where true freedom begins. When your hands are no longer tightly closed around yesterday, they become open enough to receive tomorrow. Many people spend their lives chasing what has already chosen to leave. They run after echoes. They bargain with the past. They exhaust themselves trying to rewrite chapters that have already fulfilled their purpose. But you were created for something different. You were never meant to live facing backward. You were created to walk forward with courage, even when the path unfolds one step at a time. Remember this whenever doubt whispers to your heart. A closed door is not always a sign of rejection. Sometimes it is the quiet protection of a future you cannot yet imagine. If every desire had been granted the moment you asked, how many hidden blessings would you have unknowingly missed? If every relationship had remained exactly as you wished, would you have discovered the strength now living within you? If every plan had unfolded according to your expectations, would your faith have learned to stand when certainty disappeared? The answers are not always comfortable, but they are always transforming. There is beauty in becoming someone who trusts even when the full picture has not yet been revealed. That kind of trust cannot be manufactured overnight. It is forged through ordinary days. Through quiet obedience. Through choosing hope when discouragement seems easier. Through believing that every unseen seed planted in love will one day bear fruit. And now, look at the journey behind you. The tears that once blurred your vision have become rivers that carried you toward wisdom. The waiting that once felt endless became the classroom where patience took root. The loneliness that once frightened you became the place where you rediscovered your own voice. Nothing was wasted. Not one prayer. Not one disappointment. Not one silent moment when you wondered if anyone truly understood your heart. Every experience became part of a greater tapestry. One thread alone may appear confusing, but together, they reveal a masterpiece that could never have been woven any other way. So do not measure your story by one painful season. Do not allow one person's decision to become the definition of your identity. Do not surrender tomorrow's joy to yesterday's sorrow. Lift your eyes higher. The horizon is wider than your present circumstances. Your purpose is deeper than temporary emotions. Your future is greater than your greatest disappointment. And love, true love, will never ask you to become less than who you were created to be. It will call forth your honesty. It will strengthen your character. It will inspire your compassion. It will celebrate your growth instead of fearing it. Whether the one who walked away remains part of your story or simply becomes one of its lessons, you have already received something infinitely more valuable. You have discovered a heart that can forgive without becoming naive. A spirit that can hope without becoming dependent. A faith that can remain steady through changing seasons. Carry that treasure wherever life leads. Let your kindness remain genuine. Let your wisdom remain humble. Let your courage remain quiet but unwavering. There will be people who recognize your light immediately. There will be others who understand it only after it is gone. Do not allow either response to determine your value. Your worth has never been measured by human recognition. It has always been reflected in the love, integrity, and compassion you choose to carry each day. So release the weight of comparison. Release the need for perfect explanations. Release the fear that your best days have already passed. They have not. Some of life's most beautiful chapters begin after the page everyone else believed was the ending. Walk into those chapters with confidence. Walk into them with gratitude. Walk into them with a heart that has been refined rather than hardened. And whenever you are tempted to look back, remember this simple truth. The greatest miracle was never that love finally realized what it lost. The greatest miracle was that you never lost the ability to love with wisdom, to hope with courage, and to move forward with peace. That is the victory no circumstance can take away. That is the light that will continue to guide your path. And that light will always lead you home. Before this message comes to its gentle close, there is one last invitation waiting for your heart. Not an invitation to return to yesterday. Not an invitation to relive every painful memory. But an invitation to see yourself through a different lens. For years, you may have measured your life by what slipped through your fingers. The relationship that ended. The dream that changed. The plans that never unfolded the way you expected. Yet what if those moments were never the truest measure of your journey? What if the truest measure has always been the person you chose to become in their wake? Consider the quiet victories no one applauded. The mornings you chose gratitude instead of despair. The conversations where you answered with gentleness instead of anger. The days you continued moving forward even when every step felt uncertain. Those moments mattered more than you knew. Character is rarely formed beneath bright lights. It is shaped in ordinary moments. When no one is watching. When there is no applause. When the only voice encouraging you forward is the quiet whisper reminding you not to give up. That whisper has been with you all along. Even when you believed you were walking alone. Even when the road seemed empty. Even when hope felt like a fragile flame trembling against the wind. It never left you. And neither did the purpose woven into your life. There will come a day when someone asks how you found peace after everything you endured. They may expect you to tell them about a single breakthrough. One perfect conversation. One dramatic turning point. But your answer will be simpler. Peace arrived one faithful choice at a time. One act of forgiveness. One step of courage. One decision to trust that tomorrow could still hold beauty. That is how lasting transformation unfolds. Not in an instant, but through countless moments that quietly reshape the soul. So if you are standing in a season where answers still seem distant, do not mistake waiting for abandonment. Seeds spend time beneath the soil before anyone sees a harvest. Rivers carve mountains through persistence, not speed. The sunrise never rushes. Yet it always arrives. Your life carries that same quiet promise. Do not compare your timeline with anyone else's. Do not believe that another person's blessings diminish your own. What has been prepared for you does not require someone else's loss. There is room for hope. There is room for healing. There is room for new beginnings that are richer because of the wisdom you now carry. And if the one who once walked away crosses your path again, meet that moment with a peaceful heart. If reconciliation is marked by honesty, humility, and lasting change, wisdom will help you recognize it. If your paths are meant to remain separate, peace will help you release them with grace. Either way, you no longer stand to lose yourself. That is the quiet miracle. Because your identity is no longer anchored to changing circumstances. It is anchored to enduring truth. As you continue forward, let your life become a light for those who are still wandering through the darkness you once knew. Offer encouragement where you once needed encouragement. Extend compassion where you once longed to receive it. Choose hope where fear once tried to settle. In doing so, your story becomes more than a testimony of surviving heartbreak. It becomes a testimony of becoming whole. So walk into each new day with confidence. Hold your head high. Keep your heart open. Let wisdom guide your decisions and kindness shape your words. The future is not asking you to be perfect. It is simply inviting you to be faithful to the person you have become. And one day, you will realize that every detour, every delay, every goodbye, and every unexpected turn led you to a place where peace was no longer something you searched for. It had quietly become part of who you are. Go forward with that peace. Guard it. Share it. Live from it. For the brightest chapters of your life are not defined by who stayed or who left. They are defined by the unwavering hope you chose to carry, the love you continued to give with wisdom, and the quiet strength that never stopped leading you toward the life you were always meant to embrace. And that journey is only just beginning. There is something extraordinary about the road ahead. It does not ask you to erase your past. It asks you to carry it differently. For a long time, you believed the deepest scars would always define your reflection. You feared that every disappointment had carved a permanent mark upon your heart. Yet look again. Those places that once seemed broken have become the very places where compassion now flows most freely. You understand the lonely because you have known loneliness. You recognize silent tears because you have shed your own. You offer grace because you have learned how desperately every soul needs it. What once felt like weakness has quietly become your greatest strength. That is how light often enters a story. Not by removing every shadow, but by teaching the heart to shine within them. Now pause for a moment. Think of the person you were when this journey first began. So eager to be understood. So afraid of being forgotten. So willing to question your own worth whenever someone failed to see it. Can you see how far you have come? The distance is greater than you realize. Your peace no longer depends upon someone else's decision. Your confidence no longer rises and falls with another person's affection. Your hope has found deeper roots. And roots that grow deep are not easily shaken by changing seasons. There will still be unexpected days. Moments when an old memory quietly returns. Times when a familiar name stirs emotions you thought had faded. Do not be discouraged. Healing is not the absence of memory. It is the presence of peace, even when memory visits. When those moments come, do not run from them. Do not cling to them. Simply allow them to pass like clouds across an endless sky. They no longer own you. They no longer define you. They simply remind you of how faithfully you have continued moving forward. There is another lesson waiting beyond this one. One that many hearts spend a lifetime trying to discover. Love is not proven by how tightly it holds. Love is revealed by how faithfully it honors truth. It does not manipulate. It does not demand. It does not ask you to abandon your integrity in exchange for acceptance. Real love invites growth. It celebrates honesty. It creates room for both courage and gentleness to exist together. Never settle for anything less. You were not created to shrink so that someone else could remain comfortable. You were created to become more fully yourself with every passing season. The right people will never fear that transformation. They will rejoice in it. They will encourage it. They will walk beside you through it. And if someone cannot celebrate the person you are becoming, release them with kindness. Not because they have no value, but because every heart must choose its own path. You are responsible for walking yours with wisdom. As the days unfold, remember this whenever uncertainty whispers. Do not measure your future by the chapters that tested you. Measure it by the hope that carried you through them. Hope has been quietly shaping your vision all along. It has taught you to look beyond appearances. To value character over charm. To treasure peace above temporary excitement. To recognize that the strongest foundations are built slowly, faithfully, and with patience. That understanding is a gift. Guard it carefully. Share it generously. Live it consistently. For there are people you have not yet met whose lives will be brighter because you refuse to let disappointment extinguish your light. Your story is still unfolding. New friendships await. New opportunities are drawing near. New moments of laughter, purpose, and unexpected joy are already making their way toward you. Receive them with an open heart. Not because every day will be easy, but because every day now carries a deeper meaning. You have learned that endings are rarely the final word. Sometimes they are simply the quiet beginning of a story too beautiful to recognize until time has revealed its purpose. So continue forward. Walk with humility. Walk with courage. Walk with gratitude. And whenever you wonder whether the path before you is leading somewhere worthwhile, remember how every step that once seemed uncertain has already brought you here. Trust that the next faithful step will do the same. For the greatest treasures are often discovered not by those who never faced loss, but by those who chose to keep walking with hope until they found the peace that had been waiting for them all along. And now, as this journey draws near its final horizon, there is one quiet mystery that remains. It has been present from the very beginning. Hidden between every disappointment. Woven through every unanswered question. Waiting patiently for the moment your heart would be ready to understand it. You once believed that the greatest blessing would be the return of what you had lost. You imagined that healing would arrive the moment everything looked the way it once did. But life has a gentle way of revealing a greater miracle. It does not always restore the old. Sometimes it creates something entirely new. Think of the sky after a storm. The clouds do not apologize for passing through. The rain does not ask permission before it falls. Yet when the morning light finally breaks across the horizon, the world seems more alive than before. The air is clearer. The colors are richer. The silence carries a different kind of beauty. Not because the storm never happened, but because the storm prepared the earth for new life. So it has been with your heart. What once felt like endless sorrow has become fertile ground for wisdom. What once seemed like unbearable waiting has become the place where patience quietly matured. What once appeared to be the end of your story became the beginning of a deeper understanding of who you truly are. Never underestimate what quiet transformation can accomplish. The strongest people are rarely the loudest. The wisest hearts are rarely the ones demanding attention. They are the ones who have learned to remain steady when everything around them changes. That steadiness now lives within you. Protect it. Nurture it. Let it become the atmosphere you carry wherever you go. There will always be voices trying to convince you that your value depends upon achievement, applause, or acceptance. Do not believe them. Your worth was never designed to rise and fall with public opinion. It is reflected in every act of integrity. Every choice to forgive. Every decision to speak with kindness when bitterness would have been easier. Every quiet moment you chose hope over despair. These are the treasures that cannot be stolen. And there is something beautiful you have not yet noticed. The person who once needed constant reassurance has slowly become someone capable of offering reassurance to others. The one who searched endlessly for peace has become someone who carries peace into every room. The one who questioned whether love still existed has become living proof that love can survive disappointment without losing its gentleness. That transformation is extraordinary. Do not overlook it simply because it happened one day at a time. The greatest changes often arrive so gradually that we recognize them only when we pause to look back. So pause now. Take one quiet look behind you. See the valleys you crossed. See the burdens you released. See the fears that no longer rule your thoughts. See the strength that was quietly forming every step of the way. Then lift your eyes. There is still so much ahead. New doors waiting to open. New dreams waiting to awaken. New people waiting to cross your path. New moments that will make you smile in ways you cannot yet imagine. Walk toward them without fear. Walk toward them without carrying the weight of proving yourself. Walk toward them knowing that your greatest days are built not upon perfection, but upon faithfulness. And if someone from your past ever looks at your life and finally understands what they once failed to recognize, let that realization belong to their journey. Do not make it the destination of yours. Your eyes are fixed on something greater now. Not the applause of yesterday. Not the regrets of another heart. But the quiet confidence that every season has shaped you for a purpose beyond what you could have imagined. Carry that confidence into every sunrise. Carry it into every conversation. Carry it into every dream that still feels impossible. Because hope is never wasted on the heart that refuses to surrender. One day, without even realizing when it happened, you will smile at the life before you and understand that the greatest blessing was never simply finding love again. It was discovering a peace that remained, whether love arrived, departed, or stayed. That peace became your foundation. That hope became your compass. That wisdom became your inheritance. And from this day forward, may your steps be guided by courage. May your words be shaped by compassion. May your heart remain open without losing discernment. May your life become a quiet testimony that even after heartbreak, joy can bloom again. For every ending that seemed to diminish you has only prepared you for a beginning that will reveal just how deeply hope can transform a soul. And as you continue walking, may you never forget this truth. The love that walked away may have finally learned what it lost. But you discovered something far greater. You discovered the strength to keep becoming the person you were always meant to be. And that is a gift no goodbye can ever take away.